Hello, welcome to Cooking Time. I'm David Martone, Executive Chef at Classic Time Cooking School. Today's show is all about edamame beans. We have wonderful edamame beans, shelled and unshelled. We're going to do 4 different dishes with edamame beans, and you're just going to love it. Edamame beans I usually see in a sushi restaurant, and they're simply poached with some salt. And you kind of peel them or suck them out of the shell. And to me, they're good, but I like them when they're spiced up. So I'm going to show you a couple of ways of doing some fabulous things with edamame beans. And they're just so healthy for you. What a fabulous source of protein. They're nothing more than soybeans, but they're a complete protein with all the essential amino acids. You get protein, you get fiber, just fabulous, fabulous ingredient to use to the max. So we're going to get 2 dishes going right away that need to be cooked up. We're going to do a wonderful wild mushroom and edamame risotto. So I'll put my flame on, put a little bit of olive oil on this one. And we need to chop up some leeks. And I think we're going to chop up 1 shallot. You can use an onion. It could be white, yellow, or red. I'm electing to use a shallot today, mainly because I have a bunch of them. You need to use what you have. Shallots are like a mild onion. Just slicing across one way and then slicing across in another direction. Get all that into our pan for our wonderful risotto. Kick up the heat on that a little bit. And we'll get that sauteing nicely. Starting to sizzle already. Just balance my, actually I'll keep my spoon right off to the side. Now for the other one, it's a wonderful sautéed dish with the whole edamame beans. We're going to use the shelled edamame into the risotto, and the sautéed edamame are going to be the whole beans. So I've got a piece of ginger, and I just want to trim this up a bit and just peel that. Actually, I'm going to just slice down this way. You can peel ginger with the vegetable peeler, or do what I'm doing and just kind of attack it with a paring knife. We're going to slice up that ginger. And then I want to take those slices, stack them up a little bit, and I'm going to cut them into nice matchstick size. Going to be running back and forth to get our risotto going nicely. I think it's time to add our rice. Just looking around to make sure I didn't lose my white wine. Back to the ginger. I'm going to cut this into nice little julienne, which is like matchstick size. Then just push all that together, pile it up nicely, and then we're just going to chop through that to make a tiny little dice. Just pile it all up and get through it all. Push it right off to the side and get our garlic. When we do garlic, we can flatten out the clove and then just chop through it in a couple different directions. Push that off with our ginger. That's a big fat one that doesn't want to crush so easy. Just keep going back and forth, and it'll all chop up nice. And we have one more ingredient that I want to chop right now, and that's our scallion. And we're just slicing through those little rounds of scallion, making tiny little ringlets. Okay, perfect. Rice is toasting up nicely. Going to add a bit of white wine to this. We made a risotto in another show. We've probably made risottos in several shows. They all pretty much start out the same. You start by sautéing some aromatics or some flavoring ingredients. In this case, we did some shallot and leek, and then we're going to add some mushrooms. These are Italian porcini mushrooms that have been dried and reconstituted. So this is going to be all of our wonderful mushroom flavor. Simply reconstituted them in a little bit of water. We're going to let that water sit as it gets a little bit of sediment, so I want it to settle back down. And we'll add that later to infuse a little bit more mushroom flavor. Now I'm going to add our wonderful edamame beans. Boy, folks, I didn't even check to see what time we started this show, so you'll just give me a shout out when I'm getting to the halfway point, and this way I'll know to speed things up or to slow things down if I'm ahead. And then we're going to start to add some chicken stock, a little at a time. And then we'll keep coming back and adding more chicken stock. Get rid of our bowls. Now in our sauté pan, add some oil. And we're going to add all this scallion, ginger, and garlic. A little clean up here. This dish I actually had out in San Francisco. You know, you don't just wake up in the morning always with fresh new ideas. It's actually rare when that happens. You get inspiration from someplace. So I'm visiting my brother out in San Francisco, and we happened to go to this wonderful little noodle house down in the Haight-Ashbury section. Remember the Haight-Ashbury section, back where all the rock and rollers lived and hung out, like Grateful Dead and Jefferson Airplane and all these other wonderful rockers from the 60s and 70s. And it's kind of a very hippie kind of area. And so we ordered these edamame beans, and I've only had them salted and poached. And so when these came out, they were explosive in flavor. Unbelievable. You start eating these, you'll be sucking on your fingers. They're so good. So again, we're sautéing some ginger, some garlic, and some scallions. Big, big flavors. We've got our risotto going wonderfully. And we've still got 2 more dishes to make for you. Add a little more chicken stock to this. We don't want to let this color on the other side for our sautéed dish. We want to just get everything nice and tender. Now I'm going to add my edamame beans to this. Whoa! Not the whole bowl, just the edamame beans. Now the edamame beans flying all over. Pick out all the ones I knocked onto the stove. And now we'll make them fly once more. There's always something happening in the kitchen. You drop things, you spill things, never get nervous. Slow down, stop, clean up, get organized, you'll all be fine. There's an old story that actually isn't true about Julia Child in the kitchen and her dropping a chicken or something and picking it up and throwing it back in the pot and saying, when you're in the kitchen, you're alone. Didn't actually ever happen, but folklore says it did. But one time I asked her about it, and she said that was just one of those things that build over time. Okay, now that we've got these nicely coated with garlic, the ginger, and the scallion, I want to add our Hoisin sauce. Hoisin is, I guess, similar to an Asian barbecue sauce. Very, very thick. Like a dark brown molasses type ingredient. And we're going to add some ponzu sauce. Ponzu is a citrus flavored soy sauce. It's available in Asian markets as well as supermarkets now, I'm seeing it. Want to add enough to start to loosen up that sauce in there. These are good hot, cold. I made these for my cousin not too long ago down in Florida. He's called me probably 6 times to make sure he had the recipe right. He's into bodybuilding, and this being a great source of protein, he thought that he had died and gone to heaven. So instead of drinking these massive protein drinks, he was doing a lot with edamame. So coincidentally, when I was there, I happened to make this for him, and he was just so elated. A little more stock in our risotto. This risotto is just something you nurture little by little until it develops into this wonderful, wonderful dish. And then the last thing we're going to put into this is some fresh cilantro that I'm going to chop up. Again, big, big flavors. Soy is also a fabulous, fabulous dish that promotes good women's health. Look at this. Just a little bit of fresh pepper. You could spice it up a little bit and put some garlic chili sauce in it. Okay, I'm going to shut this flame down and just let these sit until we have all of our other items ready. And now we're going to go to work on our 2 other dishes. A little cleanup. Remember what I said before about staying organized, focused. Get everything out of the way that you don't need. Okay, last 2 dishes are going to be done in the food processor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look over the ingredients of these dishes, and I'm going to see what I can do to make them both without having to switch out and do the big cleanup in between. And I'm going to be jumping back and forth to our risotto. Okay, so first dish I'm going to do is a wonderful edamame pesto. So for that, I'm going to take 1 clove of garlic and I'm going to crush that up a bit and just give it a coarse chop. So when you throw whole cloves of garlic into the food processor, they have a tendency to want to just be on a roller coaster and take a big ride in a circle, and sometimes they don't get adequately chopped. So I start the process by chopping them a bit. Next, I'm going to put in my edamame beans, which is going to be the base for this pesto. And then I'm going to chop up a little bit of fresh parsley. Again, just coarse. Don't have to go crazy with it. Keep my board clean. And then I'm going to put in some pine nuts. The last ingredient I'm going to put in is going to be some cheese. I want to put some salt and pepper. This starts out as kind of a bland dish, so I know that it's going to definitely need quite a bit of salt and some wonderful fresh cracked pepper. Hope we don't run out of time on you folks. I think we'll be able to make it up. Now, some wonderful extra virgin olive oil. Close up our food processor. And I want to pulse this around a bit. The last thing I'm going to do is put the cheese in, because I don't want to over-process this with the cheese. If you process this too much with the cheese, what happens is the heat from the blade going at such a high revolution is going to gum up and melt that cheese. So I'm going to put that in and just pulse it at the very end. But right now I'm going to turn this on and add some extra virgin olive oil until I get a consistency that's kind of like a, I guess like an oatmeal. Use your best extra virgin olive oil for this. Going to just get a little bit of a taste there. Definitely going to need some more salt. Now I'm going to put our cheese, using a Parmesan cheese, which is cow's milk. And I'm going to put another little bit of extra virgin olive oil so that I can just pulse that up and make a wonderful pesto out of that. Oh, I think we're perfect with that. Need to add some more chicken stock to our risotto. Add our little bit of mushroom liquid. This is just wonderful. And let me get all this out and we'll whip up our last dish. Folks, I've got some wonderful homemade whole wheat fettuccine that I'm going to serve with this. I figure the whole wheat will be a nice, healthier choice. Just make sure I can get all of this out because it's so rich you don't want to waste any of it. Okay, that's our pesto. And now we're going to go into our last dish, which is a edamame hummus. Again, we're going to start with a little bit of garlic, coarsely chop it up. Throw that into our processor, our edamame beans. Some sesame paste. It's really like a sesame seed peanut butter. Look at how rich and thick that is. Boy, that's going to be just lovely. A little bit more fresh parsley. And for this one, I want to put the juice of a lemon. Squeeze that right through my hands so I can catch any of the seeds that just flew away. But as you can see, I can catch the seeds between my fingers. You have food flying all over here. But it's good because it's all healthy. Get rid of those seeds. Dry up our hands. Little cleanup. Little extra virgin olive oil. And now we'll pulse this up. Perhaps a tiny bit more extra virgin. The last thing we do is some salt and some pepper. And actually I can see this needs a little more oil. Scrape down the sides. Just loosen that up a bit. I want it kind of like the other one, oatmeal consistency. Okay, so I've got our hummus, I've got our pesto, I've got our risotto, and I've got our nicely sautéed Hoisin edamame beans. What I'm going to do is a quick cleanup. I'm going to come back and plate everything up on a nice platter, and we'll see what we have to serve for you. Okay, we're back. Now, what I have to do is I've cooked up our little bit of pasta, the whole wheat pasta, little fettuccine. I'm going to add a little bit of this pesto, and what I like to do is to add a little bit of the cooking water from the pasta. Then I can toss this around to loosen it up. We never cook pesto, but we like to loosen it up with a little of the cooking water so that it stays nice and warm. What a healthy dish this is. Then sometimes what I like to do is to put a little scoop of the pesto right on top just to kind of even it out a bit. I've got our wonderful edamame hummus that I'm going to just serve with a little bit of carrot. Just keep shifting things away. And those wonderful sautéed edamame beans. I'm telling you, this will be everyone's favorite. Hot, cold, room temperature. Can't go wrong with these. Make them tonight, pack them up in a little container and send them with your kids to school for a treat for lunch. And then our risotto, I'm going to just finish by adding our cheese to. Parmesan cheese. I'm just going to move this over here and cream it up a bit. When you stir that in, that cheese just makes this dish so creamy. Here's our wild mushroom an edamame risotto. Look at how fabulous that looks. Again, a wonderful source, a complete wonderful source of protein, all the essential amino acids packed in one, good amount of fiber. We've got edamame beans done 4 ways, simply sautéed, made into a hummus, made into a pesto, and incorporated into a risotto. I'm David Martone, Executive Chef at Classic Time. Thank you for joining Edamame Night.